you want to have true honesty in your relationship, there's a trick that you have to keep in mind. You can't actually be emotionally honest if you're talking about them. So if you're describing them or speaking for their intentions and their feelings, that's actually not honesty, that's analysis. Emotional honesty means being transparent about you, how you feel, how you're making meaning, what your intentions or hopes are, what your needs are, and why. Now, if you don't follow this, you're going to find that your attempts to have an honest conversation simply don't work because A, you could be wrong, or they may not agree with you and dispute you. And B, they're the only ones that can really speak for themselves, even if you think you're right, and you very well could be. But the most important reason you need to remember this rule is that it's simply not honest to be talking about the other person, because when you interpret something outside yourself, you're sidestepping your own feelings, fears, and goals, and honesty means revealing, not concealing. So the next time you want to have an honest conversation, get real about why you're bringing it up, what's going on inside of you, what's at stake for you, and what are you asking for. Start there, that's honesty.
So we talked about the hidden reasons that men argue. Let's talk about the hidden reasons that women argue. Number one is I don't like it when he minimizes the importance of feelings or requests. I feel dismissed and unimportant. In this situation, she needs to feel validated and cherished. Instead, she feels judged and ignored. And I think I can attest to this too, because if I'm in the middle of discussing how I feel and you start to be like, it's not that big of a deal, first of all, do you want to fight? Because why would you say that to me? But yeah, that's I feel like that's true. The second one is I don't like it when he forgets to do the things I ask, and then I sound like a nag. I feel like I'm begging for his support. In this situation, she needs to feel respected and remembered. Instead, she feels neglected and at the bottom of his list of priorities. It is really hard, but we have to, as women, even in those situations, fight the urge to be like, I told you so. Didn't I tell you not to do that? Didn't I tell you? And it feels like, again, somebody mentioned in my comments before, like, why are you trying to coddle them? Men have to be responsible. It's not about coddling them. It's about being aware of these situations, being aware of how we feel. And even in this situation, men being aware of what your woman is actually communicating in these situations so that you can have the tools to unpack it better and y'all can end up not arguing. Number three is I don't like it when he blames me for being upset. I feel like I have to be perfect to be loved, and I'm not perfect. What she needs in this situation is for him to understand why she's upset and reassure her that she is still loved and that she doesn't have to be perfect. Instead, she feels unsafe to be herself. The fourth one is I don't like it when he raises his voice or starts making lists of why he is right. It makes me feel like I'm wrong or he doesn't care about my point of view. And in this situation, she needs to feel understood and respected. Instead, she feels unheard, bullied, and pushed down. And I say this all the time. I feel like I'm constantly tone policing in the comments sometimes with men, especially on videos that were like stitched from other people and heavily misunderstood. I feel like the number of times that I've had to tell a man, like, okay, but could you not have communicated that in a better way? That gets to be really frustrating. And I think that sometimes as husbands, you have to remember, and I gently tell my husband sometimes, like when things are getting, I'm like, hey, I'm still your wife. You're talking to a woman. And I think it's important that we remind them of that sometimes because they go a little off the deep end, and sometimes the tone can start to be a little bit more elevated than what we would like. But I don't like to be yelled at. You're not going to shout at me, sir. And so I feel like that one is definitely valid. I don't like his condescending attitude when I ask questions about decisions we need to make. It makes me feel like I'm a burden or I'm wasting his time. And what she needs in that moment is that she needs to feel that he cares about her feelings and respects her need to gather information. Instead, she feels disrespected and unappreciated. And I think that this is important because it coincides with the idea that your husband doesn't like to be mothered, and it coincides with the idea that we should just let them lead and we should relax more. So this is not about trying to change the person or trying to micromanage their responsibilities or trying to manage their habits and who they are as an individual. This is about awareness. So if I know that my husband doesn't like to be micromanaged, I can keep that in mind and we can avoid this argument altogether. And if my husband knows that I like to be kept in the loop, he can tell me what's going on before I get to the point where I'm starting to micromanage him. So you see how, like, this is not about changing who the person is. This is about you developing an awareness about your husband or wife and actually using the tools to do better. Number 6 is I don't like it when he doesn't respond to my questions or comments. It makes me feel like I don't exist. Sir, please answer me. And what she needs in that situation to not argue is she needs to feel reassured that he's listening and that he cares. Instead, she feels ignored or judged. My husband used to have this habit of not answering me right away, and it would irritate me. And I had to start telling him, like, I don't know what you're thinking in this moment, but I need you to say something. So now he does the, hey, I heard you, I just need a minute. And that's really helpful because, sir, why would you ever sit here and not say anything to me? And again, it's not always that he's trying to ignore you. Sometimes he's processing and he doesn't stop to be like, oh, I'm processing my information. Just give me a minute. Number 7 is, I don't like it when he explains why I should not be hurt, worried, angry, or anything else. I feel invalidated and unsupported. And what she needs is to feel validated and understood. Instead, she feels unsupported, unloved, and resentful. And this also goes with the idea that when we communicate to our husbands that we're worried or anxious, it makes them feel like we think that they're inadequate. So again, what does that awareness help us to understand? It helps us to understand that we should not always express our anxieties and worries on our husbands in a way that makes them feel like we don't approve of them. And it also lets a husband know, like, okay, let me reassure her that everything is fine so that she doesn't have to worry, right? And then number 8 is, I don't like it when he expects me to be more detached. It makes me feel like it is wrong or weak to have feelings. And then what she needs is to feel respected and cherished, especially when she's sharing her feelings. Instead, she feels unsafe and unprotected. Though all these painful feelings and needs are valid, they're generally not dealt with and communicated directly. Instead, they're built up inside and come bursting up during an argument. Sometimes they're directly addressed, but usually come up and are expressed through facial expression, body posture, and tone of voice. Men and women need to understand and cooperate with their particular sensitivities and not resent them. You will be addressing the true problem by trying to communicate in a way that fulfills your partner's emotional needs. Arguments can then truly become mutually supportive conversations necessary to resolve and negotiate differences and disagreements.
I wanted to broach the very complicated subject of what are healthy responses when your partner gives you a less than healthy response. This is a sticky topic because there's a line, right? I'm not saying stick around if you're being terribly mistreated, and I'm certainly not saying you have the power to ever control another person's behaviors or mindsets. But I'm also saying you don't know how much your person's on-edge nervous system is amenable to reconditioning, and you do have 100% control over your behaviors. So I do encourage people who want to make sure they've tried everything and left no stone unturned to consider radically cleaning up your side of the street for a while and seeing how the dynamic changes or doesn't change. You and your partner have brought with you conditioned expectations that connection, conflict, emotion, and vulnerability mean different things, mean danger, or mean abandonment, or mean meaningful confusion or defectiveness or whatever. And likely this conditioning existed even before you met one another. Yes. And you guys, it is also likely that your responses have solidified your partner's conditioning, and your partner's responses have solidified and deepened your conditioning. Like, the more someone's avoidant, the more the other person feels invisible and gets reactive, and the more someone is reactive, the more the other person feels smothered and criticized, and they do fuel one another. And if that cycle goes on for a long time, often people start externalizing or defensively acting like the other person is the problem, and they're entitled to punish and control and condemn and belittle. So I always say, you can clean up your end of the cycle and see if the other person's nervous system eventually feels safe enough to drop their protective defenses. But also, you could clean up your end of the cycle and the other person could be so far dysregulated that nothing changes. It's a total risk, and sometimes people get stuck on, but my partner doesn't deserve for me to be constructive when they're not being constructive. And maybe that's correct. It's just not helpful. And if neither partner is willing to soften the cycle first, the relationship will 100% get more and more and more dysregulated. And in that case, I suggest people break up, which is always an option too. The other thing I wanted to say is that all secure responses require something that anxiously attached people don't naturally do, because connection, conflict, and emotion feel unsettling and possibly dangerous by definition of anxious attachment. And that something they don't naturally do is allowing human internal experiences, like emotions, perspectives, even mistakes and limits and yearnings, to exist without attaching meaning to them. Theoretically, we allow small to medium intensity disappointments, frustrations, emotions, urges, mistakes to exist without condemnation or catastrophic meaning, and then those emotions don't intensify. And when we judge and attach meaning to them, they do intensify. That's true for individuals in our own minds. Judging and attaching meaning to low-level emotions make emotional experiences more intense and more prolonged. And it's also true for couples. So, I'm going to give you some examples of secure responses to your partner's unhealthy communication. And in each example, I'm encouraging you to be open to the possibility of accepting your partner's internal experience without condemnation or attaching catastrophic meaning. A lot of times, people think that the other person is being unhealthy and cruel and rude with any expression of negative emotion or need for space. And this just isn't true. In fact, some negative human experiences are not only reasonable, but are forms of intimacy, as long as they're coming from a vulnerable place and not a place that is condemning and belittling and entitled to control, punish, or withhold interaction. So here are some examples of mild to medium level intensity humanity that I'd encourage the partner to simply notice and accept. And I call these human communication examples secure enough. Then I'm going to give examples of really unhealthy communication, which are not secure at all. And I'll give examples of how to respond securely to those secure enough communication. Then I'm going to give you examples of actually unhealthy communication, which are not secure at all, but will theoretically become less frequent if the milder internal secure enough experiences are noticed and accepted. What the heck? You keep putting the knives vertical in the dishwasher and they don't get washed. Now I have to reload it. Oops, yeah, that is frustrating. I do keep forgetting. Every time we talk about anything, you just make me feel like shit. And I'm going to the basement. Okay, I hear you. You need some space. We can talk about this later. Oh, I can't get this to work. Did you get water on this? I can see you're frustrated, but I don't appreciate that I'm the first person you blame. Do you never notice anything around here? Am I the only one that sees all this mess? Ouch. That hurt. I thought I was trying to notice what needs to be done around here. Hurry up. We're going to be late. Do you really need to try on 6 shirts? I know you're stressed. I don't want us to be late either. I'm about to make a decisive decision and then we're going to go. I just can't do anything right, can I? No, I didn't say that. I don't want you to feel like you're failing at everything. In this one particular situation, I need you to try to do it differently. You know what? Bob is not allowed to come over anymore. He can never come over again. I get that your feelings are hurt by how he treated you, but I disagree that we're going to never have him over again. We need to talk more about that. That's it. I'm going to the basement. Maybe if you started being less psycho, I'd want to be around you. I wanted to talk about how you spoke to me earlier. It's okay to directly tell me that I'm hurting your feelings. I want to hear that stuff, but I don't appreciate you calling me names. I don't deserve that. You got water on this again. You have to be one of the spazziest people I know. Any idea how much it costs to replace this? What is wrong with you? Nothing is wrong with me. I'm a human who makes mistakes sometimes. You can be frustrated and be decent to me too. I'm the only one who does anything around here. Look, I overheard you before talking to yourself when you were cleaning around the house. Would you be available tonight to plan out our expectations for the week and who's going to do what this week? Not a chance in hell that I'd do it your way, you control freak. Excuse me? I know I can be particular, but I don't deserve to be name called. Take your sweet time getting ready, why don't you? What is this, your 6th outfit you've tried on? This is what I was talking about. You being selfish. I wanted to talk about what happened earlier. It seems like every time I do something you don't like, you try and hurt me. And I need a little flexibility and benefit of the doubt. If you're hungry and you want to get going, tell me. If you let Bob step foot in this house again, that's it. We're getting divorced. Hey, I know Bob hurt you and you need to know that I'm on your side. Please don't bring up divorce. We're a team and we can talk about this. And I do care about your feelings and I don't think it's okay for Bob to treat you that way. If you keep bringing up your work drama, I'm just going to start ignoring you. You shouldn't care about other people's business. Well, I see venting and just listening as connecting and bonding. You're welcome to see it differently and that's okay, but don't try to make it seem like there's something wrong with me for caring about what I care about. So if this video and my previous video on how securely attached partners talk to one another seemed helpful to you, check out my series linked below and also available on my website. I'm doing 3 courses, one for each of the anxious attachment styles, to offer lots of concrete examples of securely attached communication, particularly catered to the type of anxious attachment style you have. My first course is out now on what avoidantly attached people need to practice for healthier relationships. And my next courses will be about anxious reactive attachment and disorganized attachment.
Hey man, if you feel like your wife feels insecure within your marriage, but you're willing to, show her your phone, give her your passcodes, and you're like, why is she insecure? I've shown her everything. This video is for you. See, the thing is, showing her your phone is transparency, and transparency is a beautiful thing. Letting them know that they can see whatever they need to see just so they can feel more secure is awesome. But to truly feel secure within a relationship and feel close to someone, it's about how do you make them feel when they're around you? Do they feel prioritized? Do they feel cared for? Do they feel respected within a relationship? Does being around you feel like safety, like home to them? Because if it doesn't, and she feels like something is off just by the nature of how you guys are connected, that is going to create insecurity. It's not just about sharing your passwords. That's a beautiful thing if that's what you choose to do, but that is not the ticket to security. Security has much more to do with how you make her feel when you are around each other and how she perceives you behave outside of your home because of how she feels loved and respected while she's with you. All right? Okay.
All right, let me call you right back on that. So, big project deadline. Okay. Didn't realize it was coming this week. So I'm going to be more distracted, probably have to work late. So if I can just focus, it'll be short-lived. So this weekend, then I can plan something for us to connect and have fun together.
Hey, I was just getting the bags for the trip, and it made me realize we should probably get on the same page about how much time with your family, time relaxing, time just us. So do you want to have that conversation now? Just so you know, I started my cycle today, so if I seem short, snappy, tired, just have a little grace for me, okay?
Hey, I know this week has been a little more tense, so why don't we just have a family meeting and we'll get on the same page for the next week.
On my way into work, I just saw a gas truck with a mud flap that had some of the best marriage advice I think I've ever seen. Ironically, it wasn't meant to be marriage advice, but it was infinitely more valuable than any premarital counseling that we received. So let me just throw this out there and see if it makes sense. The mud flap read, "Your energy partner." And I don't know why it's taken me so very long to understand fully what my role as a spouse was. There were a lot of things I thought I was supposed to be doing as a husband. I thought I was a good husband, but I was a shitty partner. And I think that this is really important to kind of underscore here. When my partner needed something from me or wanted to bring up an idea or felt an intuition about something, I, for some reason, thought we were some kind of opposites attract yin-yang thing where my job was to be the foil. So there is this term in business called a pre-mortem, where you actually take a look at why a business deal may go wrong. You start from the negative, work backwards, and make sure you don't do those things. That is a fine strategy for a business deal. That is a fine strategy in my line of work if you're doing like a social work case plan. It is not a good strategy for a relationship. So I always came with the opposite energy and tried to work starting from a no and how we would build a yes when my partner needed me to match the energy of the yes from the get-go, and we could figure out the blueprints later. So I imagine that some couples, are very different. Not everyone's the same, obviously, but I would have been served so much better had I understood that my role was to match my partner's energy. And my partner would have been served because she actually would have had a partner instead of someone just saying no to her all the time. So anyway, the premarital counseling we received, it sucked. But for what it's worth, anybody out there looking to, start a relationship or improve on theirs, matching your partner's energy with yes excitement on their ideas, on their hopes and their dreams is a real big one. So anyway, hope that helps.
In the beginning, everything is good.
But when the honeymoon stage is over,
You have to learn how to love. In relationships, you will get on each other's nerves. Things will get difficult, but we all are difficult in our own way, and all relationships require patience.
Listen, find ways to be kind to each other. You're going to argue, but you could disagree without being disagreeable.
Yes, be confident, build trust, work it out, do what you gotta do, and don't be a know-it-all. Take time to get to know your partner.
Selfishness is a no-no.
No.
It won't work if you always want your own way. This is your teammate.
This is the same person you desired and wanted. Remember, you chose this person.
The person you love the most is the person that's gonna make you the most mad. Give an allowance for each other's faults and practice forgiveness.
'Cause you can't just give up on your partner. Love endures through the good, the bad,
And the ugly. Love never fails.
Love believes all things
It hopes all things.
and endures all things.